Yo, what is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for clicking on this video. We are back at it with the week 3 rankings. I hope y'all did well in week 2, made it out without any injuries. Obviously, that is not the case though for everybody. We had some pretty brutal injuries this past week. So we're going to be going through all of that, going over my top 24 rankings for this week 3. So we're going to need to monitor Austin Eckler and Aaron Jones. They both didn't play last week, but definitely had chances, and they will have chances to play this week. So those are situations we're going to have to monitor. I will have them both ranked here, but obviously that's going to change if more information comes out later in the week. I will update down in the comments below if that happens. It also sounds like Saquon Barkley and David Montgomery are going to be out for a couple of weeks. I don't think Matt Breida quite makes it into this top 24 this week, especially going against SF, but definitely somebody to monitor for the next couple weeks. And obviously we lost Nick Chubb for the entire season, so Jerome Ford will obviously be ranked here, but I could see them making a trade or picking up a running back sometime soon. I believe those are the main injury situations going on in the NFL with running backs right now. If there were any that I missed out on, just let me know down below. But let's get into these rankings. All right, first up, to nobody's surprise, it's going to be Christian McCaffrey going up against the New York Giants on Thursday Night Football. He's been basically playing the entire running back snaps, even when they don't really need him to. So he was already the running back 1, but I think that this just puts him into his own complete tier on his own. So obviously CMC going to be the 101. After that, we're going to have Tony Pollard at my running back 2. They're going up against the Arizona Cardinals this upcoming week. Tony Pollard and the Dallas Cowboys have looked like one of the best teams in the NFL right now, and I think they're going to dominate this game and just run the clock out. So Pollard should get a ton of work this week, and he's already been dominating, so I think that only continues now. And then at running back 3, I'm going to have Bijan Robinson right here. We already saw his workload increase, and he absolutely dominated both of these first 2 weeks. The Falcons run the ball more than anyone in the NFL. They have one of the best running offensive lines in the NFL with a great scheme, and Bijan Robinson is also one of the most talented running backs right now. So another guy who is just an absolute smash play. Honestly, we'll probably have him ranked above Pollard most weeks, but just with the matchup this week, I'm going to have Pollard. And then the last guy in this top tier, which could be a little bit spicy, but I'm going to have Travis Etienne up here. He didn't have a very good week last week, but nobody really did on the Jaguars, and they're playing the Houston Texans this upcoming week where they should absolutely dominate on the ground against them. Tank Bigsby also has not been a factor whatsoever. Travis Etienne has been an absolute workhorse, so I think that Travis Etienne is a great buy low target since he did not have a great week last week, but his utilization is an elite running back, and we've seen his talent time and time again. Now, moving on to my tier 3 and running back 5, I'm going to have Austin Eckler here. Like I said, he might not play this week. We got to monitor that situation, but if he does play, he's going to be absolutely dominant, just as he always is, so not too worried about him. It's really just if he plays or not, but since he is coming off that injury, just have him a little bit lower out of that tier 2. And then after him, I'm going to have Derrick Henry here, who never had any like big runs this past week, but got a ton of utilization, what we've really been looking for. His snaps went back up, so I think he's back to his workhorse self. And going up against the Cleveland Browns, who are a good team, but not a great team, I don't think. He should be just fine for fantasy. It's not really a matchup that I'm too worried about, not really what I'm targeting. So I think Henry should be solid for another 25 touches. And the last guy in this tier is actually going to be Kenneth Walker, who has been absolutely dominating the backfield for the Seattle Seahawks. He had 2 touchdowns this past week, and Zach Charbonnet just has not been a factor whatsoever. And as long as this continues, Kenneth Walker is going to be a top 10 RB. Then moving on to my tier 4, and at my running back 8, I'm going to have Josh Jacobs here. I don't know if this still seems a bit too high for him just because he's really struggled these first 2 weeks, but his utilization is that of an elite running back, basically what he was last year. He's just getting all the snaps possible. They had a tough game script last week, and this week they're playing Pittsburgh, who has actually been giving up the most points to running backs over the first 2 weeks. So I think that this should be a bounce back game for Jacobs, another person who I think is a great buy low target. And same with the next person, who is going to be Joe Mixon, going up against LA Rams, so a little bit tougher defense, but he has also been utilized like a true workhorse running back. It's really just come down to this Bengals offense just looking absolutely terrible, and they definitely turned it around a little bit in the second half last week, but Joe Burrow hurt his calf, so we got to see how bad that is. But there's an explosion game coming with him getting utilized as much as he has been, so I think another person who I'm trying to trade for right now. And then after him, I'm going to have Raheem Mostert here, who has been absolutely dominating the Miami Dolphins backfield with Jeff Wilson out, Devon A-Chain hasn't been a factor whatsoever. He does have a tough matchup against the Broncos defense, but they haven't looked anywhere near as good as they did last year on defense, so I'm not as worried about it. This is also a really high-powered offense, and as long as he continues to dominate the snaps, which probably will change eventually, he's going to be great for fantasy. Somebody who I could be kind of interested in trading away just because there's no way that he doesn't get hurt. It's just inevitable for Raheem Mostert. But if you have him, just keep playing him until the wheels fall off. And the last guy I'm going to have in this tier 4 running backs, my running back 11, going to be one of the revelations of the season so far. It's going to be Kyren Williams. He's been just absolutely dominating in every aspect of the game, dominating the snaps, touches, been really great giving those touches. Got 10 targets last week. He's just been absolutely dominating, and Cam Akers being a healthy scratch. This is just only going to continue, and he did this last week against the San Francisco 49ers defense. So this is like honestly his floor. He could be at the top of this tier if you really want it. It's just really hard given what the whole entire pre-draft process has been with him and the entire Rams backfield, but based off what we've seen, he's got to be around this top 10 RB every single week moving forward. The only thing that really worries me is he is extremely small, and taking the workload that he has been given, it's just hard to imagine him being able to sustain that. But until he doesn't, or they don't give him that work, we just got to keep firing him up. Moving on to my tier 5 running backs, and at my running back 12, I'm going to have Ramondre Stevenson here. Another person who's been dominating his backfield, but the offense hasn't been amazing. He's been really inefficient running the ball, but he's getting a lot of work in the receiving game, which has kind of been saving him. Zeke also seems like a non-factor, so I'm not too worried about it. The Patriots are going up against the New York Jets this week, so tough defense for Ramondre to go up against, which is why I don't have him in that next tier, but he's still just getting too much work, and he is a really good receiver to be ranked any lower than this. And after him, I got Jahmyr Gibbs here, who we haven't seen a ton of these first 2 weeks. You've seen little flashes when he has been given the ball, but they haven't given him the work that he should get. He did get used a ton in the receiving game last week, which is definitely good to see, but you'd think his usage would go up a lot once David Montgomery went out, but we didn't really see that. I'm hoping that with a week of prep, that will kind of change. And going up against the Atlanta Falcons, not really a defense that I'm scared of, so Gibbs should have a really good week, and hopefully we see that rookie breakout we've been waiting for from him. Now, up next, the running back 14, another revelation of the season. It's going to be Brian Robinson. He was a running back 1 last week. He absolutely dominated. He looks so much faster than he did last year, not afraid of contact at all, being used in the passing game, just everything you could want to see from him. Now, they are playing the Buffalo Bills, which is a really tough matchup, so that definitely worries me some. He also has not been getting the workhorse snap usage that we would hope for, which is kind of surprising, especially given the amount of work that he's given. Basically, every time he's in the game, he's given the ball. And this just seems like a philosophy change for the Eric Bieniemy offense, so I think that this is going to continue. Hopefully, his snaps go up more so we can be a little bit more reliant on it. But I think that he's going to be really good for fantasy. Right now, I got him in this kind of high-end RB2 range, but definitely could get into an RB1 range if they just get him on the field more. Like I said, he only played 52% of the snaps last week, which is actually down from week 1, but he just absolutely dominated, which is kind of weird to see. I don't really think his utilization is going anywhere. I would feel pretty comfortable playing him. Just a tough matchup this week against Buffalo. And then after him, I'm going to have James Cook here, who has looked unbelievable through these first 2 weeks of the season. Really efficient running, main receiving running back in this offense, which is one of the best offenses. The only knock on him is he has not been getting utilized whatsoever on the goal line. I don't really think that's going to change either. I mean, I wish it would, but I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to be Damian Harris and Latavius Murray on the goal line. Basically, everywhere else is going to be mostly James Cook. So this definitely takes away from his upside, because once they get on the goal line, he's not going to be there. And also Josh Allen is there, who is able to take away a lot of that work, but he's being utilized so much everywhere else, and he looks really good, that I think he's got to beat this around, top 15 RB going forward. I do think that goal line work, though, doesn't allow him to kind of get into that RB1 range, but still somebody who's going to be in your lineup basically every single week. And the last guy in this tier is going to be Aaron Jones, who didn't play last week. He was hurt, but you could tell this offense just looked totally different without him. The hamstring didn't seem like it was too much of an issue, so hopefully we have him back this week. If not, AJ Dillon will get basically all the snaps, although he was not very good with them last week. So if Jones does miss, you could flex AJ Dillon, but I don't know if he would even be in this top 24 running backs with Jones being out. He'd be right on that fringe. Moving on to the next tier, at my running back 17, I'm going to have Miles Sanders here. Now, he's being utilized a lot in this Carolina offense, which is really good to see, but this offense just has looked so bad that he hasn't been able to do anything with it. They're going up against Seattle this week, so hopefully it could be a little bit better output than we have seen from the past couple weeks, but it's hard to put him any higher than this, just given what this offense has looked like. I even see the argument for putting him lower. We'll see kind of what happens with the week as it plays out, but right now I got him here, my running back 17. Next up, at my running back 18, I'm going to have Isaiah Pacheco here. He's a tough guy to gauge right now because he hasn't been utilized. I mean, he's never really been utilized a lot in the passing game, but he is the main rusher for this offense, but it's not really a great rushing offense. And overall, the offense just didn't look very good this past week, but they are playing the Chicago Bears this week, which is the remedy for everybody that's struggling in fantasy. They're favored by like 12.5 points, so the Chiefs should be up a bunch. They should run Pacheco. Actually, you know what? I'm moving Pacheco ahead of Sanders. I'd play him just based off this matchup. I think that it is way too good of a matchup for Pacheco not to dominate here. And if Pacheco does struggle here against the Chicago Bears, then it's going to be a massive red flag for him going forward, because this is where he should absolutely dominate. After them, we're going to have Jerome Ford here, the replacement for Nick Chubb, who actually balled out once he was in the game. Really unfortunate, though, that we're not going to have Nick Chubb for the rest of the season. I hope that he's able to make it back next year. That injury was so brutal. Also a situation to monitor if they bring in another RB and what that looks like, because it could be somebody who won't really make an impact, or they could trade for someone like Jonathan Taylor and then Jerome Ford would be completely irrelevant. For right now, though, he seems like the workhorse running back there, and that's kind of how they operate this system, so he should be getting majority of the work in this offense. Now, they are playing the Tennessee Titans, which is one of the hardest rushing defenses in the entire NFL, so that is definitely worrisome, especially for somebody who's not the starting running back. But I think his volume in this offense just makes him, this low-end RB2 right now. And if he can do well again in this matchup, then he's going to be a league winner for everyone, because if he dominates again, I don't think they're going to bring in a new back, and he should be the workhorse going forward. And after him, some more nasty stuff, I'm going to have Zach Moss here, who actually dominated last week, and he played on 98% of the snaps, which was the second most in the NFL, only behind Christian McCaffrey, who played on every offensive snap. And so when you're getting that much utilization, you're going to be at least decent for fantasy, and he actually balled out this past week. Now, they are playing Baltimore, which is a tough defense, so I don't expect that again, obviously, but he's getting so much work where he could definitely a flex RB2 area. And then the last guy in this tier is going to be DeAndre Swift, who I have a really hard time ranking right now. He looked unbelievable on Thursday night last week. He got all of the work, but Kenneth Gainwell, who was a starting running back in week 1, he got all of the work, was not active, and I imagine he'll be active for this game. And so right now we don't really know how that snap share is going to break down. Obviously, Kenneth Gainwell, like I said, was the main workhorse week 1, but with how good Swift was last week, there's no way they're going to not use him. So I think it's honestly going to be a pretty close to 50-50 split, with Swift kind of leading the way, but that's really just speculation on my part and kind of what I'm assuming. Now, if Kenneth Gainwell is out again, then DeAndre Swift can be at the top of this tier 5, definitely at least in this tier 5 somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but right now, if everyone's healthy, then I got him around here, but he could definitely move up depending on what happens with Kenneth Gainwell. Now, moving on to my last tier and my running back 22, I'm going to have Najee Harris here. Oh, Najee, this is a tough one. I don't really have him anywhere besides in one dynasty league. He's getting like 50% of the snaps now, which is like kind of completely destroys everything that you hope for, because the whole point of Najee is that he is a high volume guy that is not very efficient, and he is still not very efficient, but the high volume just has not been there. The first 2 weeks they played the San Francisco 49ers and the Cleveland Browns, so 2 good defenses, and this week they're going up against the Las Vegas Raiders, so he should have a much better week this week. But still not someone that I'm too excited by, just because of how good Jaylen Warren has looked, and I think that it's going to be closer to a split than we had all imagined. I think we've all seen that now. And if Najee struggles again against the Raiders, then it's going to be a huge red alert for everybody. But I still think that he is decent enough and should be getting enough work against a bad defense where he can be at least flexible for fantasy. My running back 23, I'm going to have Rachaad White here going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. He actually looked really good last week, where he looked really bad week 1. And so I definitely feel a lot better about him than I did before this past week, but just going up against Philadelphia Eagles, that is such a tough defense to go against. And I mean, the offense has looked good so far, but they'll actually get tested now against them. So this defense definitely scares me some, but he, again, getting that workhorse volume where I think that you're going to have to play him no matter what. Now that I'm kind of talking it out, I think I'm going to have Najee behind him, but I'm not going to move them up any tiers or anything. But I would play Rachaad White over Najee, but Rachaad White, still not too excited about him, but given everything that he's done these past 2 weeks, I think you got to play him. And then the last guy in this top 24 are going to be Alexander Mattison. He has looked really bad so far these first 2 weeks, but he is still getting that workhorse utilization. So you're going to have to play him for the most part just because of that volume. And going up against LA Chargers, pretty good matchup for him. So you can definitely take advantage of that there. I think if he has a good week, then you could probably try to sell high on him, but I don't think that there's going to be a lot going on for him this whole year. Probably kind of a flex guy depending on matchups, which I think this is a pretty decent matchup for him. There are a lot of guys that are right outside this top 24 who are definitely in consideration to start. Guys like Breece Hall, James Conner, Dameon Pierce, Tyler Algier, and probably Javonte Williams, and one other guy. Those guys are all definitely in consideration for this next group. And if you want to take any of these guys or start any of these guys over everyone else in tier 7, got no problem with that at all. If you have any specific questions about start sits, definitely let me know down below in the comments. I'll also make sure to keep people updated just down below what's going on with some of the different situations that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. My wide receiver should also be coming out pretty soon, so make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that. Also drop a like on the video, it really helps out a ton. All right, thank you guys, see you in the next one.